Welcome to Power Hour, presented by Circle B Diecast. My name is Eric Estepp. I am joined by NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Brennan Poole. Brennan, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for that amazing intro. Just bringing it right in.
Yeah. Well, we only have an hour. It's a powerful hour of content, so I got to be quick. I got to be abrupt. There's Brennan. Everybody clap.
The hour is powerful. Can we put a clap track in for me?
Oh, I will find that just for you, just for this episode.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, we are here. This is a brand new podcast. We've got a special guest joining us later today, Daniel Suárez, coming straight off of a playoff berth last season, a win at Sonoma. We're going to hear all about that, the backstory behind the Piñata celebration. I was really curious to know about that. So we got Daniel Suárez joining us later on, but we're going to start this episode, as we will start pretty much every Power Hour episode, by discussing the latest NASCAR news, hot topics. Before we get to that, though, we do have to thank our sponsor. This episode is presented by Circle B Diecast. You can use code OOTG, stands for Out of the Groove, for free shipping on orders over $30. Both Brennan and I are huge diecast collectors. We love to go on circlebdiecast.com and see what the latest releases are, what's coming soon, and it's a great passion of mine. It's what helped start my YouTube channel, is doing videos with diecast. I know, Brennan, you're pretty excited to have your name on a diecast that will be shipping very soon to the public. So I wanted to show this off today. The prototype Out of the Groove, Brennan Poole, JD Motorsports Chevy that ran at Phoenix, looks gorgeous. I cannot wait for the Groovy Gang, for many listeners and viewers out there, to get this thing and have it in their collection. I cannot believe how well it came out. Brennan, I know we were talking about some big name drivers later today, like Kevin Harvick. Do you have a special scheme, a special diecast to show off to commemorate that?
Yeah, I have my Kevin Harvick ET 29 from back in the day. I'm pretty stoked on this one.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I always loved these colors when I was a kid. I always thought this was like the coolest looking car. And of course, yeah, I mean, what a way to celebrate Harvick retiring. Plus, it has Sonic on it, which Texas also, Sonic is a big thing. I used to go there after school and get the tater tots and a lime Dr. Pepper. That's what? Real Texan. Yeah, they still
do that?
Yeah, you can still do that. I think you can. I've never Sonic in a
I
while.
love Dr. Pepper. I've never thought about adding lime to it. This is news to me.
It's so good. It is so good, dude. Wow. But yeah, I haven't been to Sonic in a while. I'm a prime top tier athlete. Okay, I can't be eating tater tots. I'm just kidding. I've probably been to Sonic recently. Yeah, but this car is awesome. It has like the stars and has ET on it, and man, I don't know. And when I was a kid, like playing the NASCAR video games, like I would always try to make my paint scheme where you could like create your own, like the old NASCAR or Total Team Control, like that stuff. I always try to like copy it after this. And I actually had a car that we tried to paint when I was younger to kind of look after, like kind of modeled it after this with the blue on the bottom and the black. I always just thought this was a really pretty car. So yeah. And it's Kevin Harvick, in honor of him and his retirement. And now we get to hear him in the booth more, which is also good because I think he does a good job.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But Brennan, you're running full-time Xfinity this year with JD Motorsports, and the day we're recording this, which is just a couple of days before this will be released to the public, Kyle Busch announced he's coming out of retirement to run 5 Xfinity races this year. How do you feel about that, Brennan? Are you pro Cup drivers in Xfinity or anti?
I mean, I'm not pro and I'm not against it. I think like as far for the team, like for Kaulig, it's great because I think you have someone with so much experience that they're going to be like, Kyle's going to be able to help find some things within their program that may need improvement and make it better. And not to be harsh on Kaulig, but I feel like the last 2 years, they really haven't been as strong as we saw the previous couple years before that. So I think just Kyle in general being in that whole RCR program, I think is just going to elevate everybody over there. So I think the Xfinity teams will run better, and I think the Cup teams will run better too. I think Kyle, his feedback, if you're ever able to listen to his radio and he's dissecting a race car, it's like really interesting to listen to him talk about it. But he is just so good at diagnosing what he needs in the race car in order to find the speed and where some of the problem areas may or may not be. So I think it's going to be really good for the organization. But as far as like racing against him, like, yeah, I mean, he's tough. He's one of the best to ever do it. He's got, 102 wins or whatever it is. Like, he is incredibly, incredibly difficult. One of the best ever, in my opinion, on restarts. He like changed the game on restarts, I think, forever. So like he's just one of those guys that's just like, it's a challenge. So I think there's probably some guys that are like, oh man, I got to race Kyle. But I mean, when you race against him, you learn so much. Like I've learned a lot of stuff from him. I've raced with him in the trucks. I've raced with him in Xfinity closely. So we've had a few battles, and I've learned a lot from him. So, and Kyle is one of those guys too. You can talk to him in the garage, and I think when you're a rookie, it's like intimidating to talk to some of those Cup guys, but it's also important for them there, and they can kind of teach some of the younger guys some things, here and there. And no one gives away all of their secrets, and then you can just pick up stuff from racing against them. So I think it's good. I mean, I've always enjoyed racing
elevate the
against
competition.
Yeah,
I mean, the Xfinity Series
sure.
is all about like younger drivers, I think, learning and like having a chance to learn on a big stage in front of millions of fans. So Kyle Busch, I think, is good for that. I'm happy you said what you said about Kyle Busch's communication, the way he relays information about the car, because I think that kind of correlates with something I've been saying, a theory I've had. Kyle Busch in Cup the last couple of years, his numbers have dipped, and I think you can look back to a single point in time, the moment the pandemic hit and practice and qualifying went away, and then simultaneously NASCAR began to severely limit how many Xfinity and truck races he could run as a Cup guy. I think the moment those rules began to be implemented, Kyle Busch's Cup numbers have slipped a little bit. And I think it's, it's a mixture of seat time, but it's also a mixture of having less time to work on the car and talk to your crew members about what's going on and make any significant adjustments at the racetrack. But I guess Kyle Busch driving the 10 car, this is a result of Landon Castle, who I think everyone thought was going to be full-time this year in that car. Unfortunately, is not. So Kyle Busch 5 races, beginning with the West Coast Swing, Vegas and Phoenix. He will start out there. But I guess it's good to hear what a driver thinks of Kyle Busch back in Xfinity. He's gone back on his promise. He's Tom Brady and he's Brett Favre and he's marketing it.
I mean, yeah, for sure. It's definitely a unique situation with Landon not being in the car. But I mean, I hate that for Landon too. I just wanted to touch on that for a minute because it's difficult when you go from running midfield cars and then battling up front. It's a different race. And I was curious to see, how much farther along Landon would have been if he got the second year running full time in a decent car. So, kind of bummed for him, but also I am very interested to see what Kyle does in the Xfinity car. Rules have changed. He's at Colleague, I think, is trying to make that program back to where it was. So yeah, we'll just see what he can do. Those are some good tracks for Kyle. He's obviously really good at Phoenix. I think we can all say he's really good there in Xfinity car. So be curious to see what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll provide, if nothing else, a baseline for where that a Colleague Xfinity program is now and where it should be. Next topic I want to hit on, Brennan. So as of the time of recording this, it's the week after the Clash. The Clash at the Coliseum. I was there in person. I assume you were watching the Fox broadcast at home.
Yeah, I did.
The big kind of talking point coming out of this event, obviously the second half of the main race was a little sloppy, a lot of spins, a lot of contact, a lot of crashing. But because Auto Club Speedway confirmed they will not be on the schedule next season and maybe not even 2025, many are speculating that the Clash at the Coliseum will become a points race. And I know you didn't race in the Clash, Brennan, but watching it at home and as a driver, how do you feel about that possibility?
I don't think it should be a points race. I don't, and I would probably just go out on a limb here and say I think every driver in the field would probably say it shouldn't be a points race, but they don't make those decisions. But I mean, I just, I think a points paying race should be a track big enough where all the cars can at least be on the track at the same time, or all the ones that qualified for the race. I don't think it should be broken up in heat races. And then you have to figure out, well, this person got eliminated in this B main and this person got eliminated in this B main. And so it's this points. And it's just like, I just don't think it's necessary to do that. I think the show of the Clash is great. Like, I love the break halfway. I thought Wiz Khalifa did a great job. I thought he was awesome. The first band, I can't even remember their name. I know they're from the 90s. I know there's one song, but like, I didn't think that part, if I'm being totally honest, I just didn't like that part of it. But the rest of the show I thought was pretty awesome and seemed like the fans liked it a lot. So I was pretty happy with how all that stuff went. In the first half of the race, I thought was great. the second half of the race, it just became a little bit of a ping pong type show where the
Yeah.
cars just running into each other, back and forth, spinning every 2 seconds. Harvick retaliating to wreck the 38 when the 38 got shoved into him anyways from behind. So it's like all this like mix match of stuff happening because the track's so tiny.
No one knew who to be mad at. That was the
No,
problem. like it's one thing to have tempers. I feel like everyone was pissed after the race, but you didn't have any fights or anything because nobody actually knew who to be mad at. That's what it seemed.
No, everyone was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess you get shoved from 3 cars back. There's nothing anybody can do. You just can't stop. So I personally think the track's a little too small. I wish there was a way or a stadium that had like a section that they could like move out of it so like the track could be a little bigger, and then I think it would be amazing. I think it would be really cool, and I think the fans would love being like that close up on top of the action, and you could do the similar thing. So I personally think the clash should be moved somewhere else. But I think they've done this 2 years in a row. I personally think it's been very successful. I think a lot of people have thought that it was fun. I don't think the drivers had much fun, but I think they could find a venue, do it in a big market or somewhere else where they could just like, the track just needs to be a little bigger. It's just too small. It's too small.
I think it's fine the size and shape it is now for an exhibition where, I think this year the drivers were all a little more comfortable, and that's why you saw them, like you said, ping ponging, just piling into each other a little bit more. But yeah, if they're going to turn this into a points race, I don't really have an issue with the elimination thing. Like for a points race, I think if one day we did want to do a point race with heats where only like 25 make it to the main event, I think they'd find a way to calculate the points, 25th on back reasonably. And I wouldn't be opposed to that if the track conditions called for it. But I think in the case of this race, it's just, like I said, it's too easy to affect someone 3 cars in front of you. It's just, you get spun. You don't even know who to be mad at. You don't know who to retaliate. The only wreck I saw in that race that was pretty clear who made the mistake and who got the worst end of it was when Ross Chastain, of course, spins Denny Hamlin for about the bajillionth time. But aside from that, it was just a lot of bumper cars with no one. Everyone's mad, but they're just mad at the environment. They're not mad at anyone in particular, and that's not good. Like I was watching after the race, I think Hamlin and Byron traded contact, and then Hamlin got spun after the yellow because Byron's mad. Hamlin gets out of the car, and I'm watching this from the stands. Hamlin gets out of his car, storms over to William Byron. They talk for a second, and then Hamlin's like, "Oh, my bad," and walks off. And you go back and watch the replay. It was Kevin Harvick from like 3 rows deep that caused the wreck they were both mad about. So that was the problem. Like it devolved past entertaining good racing to just kind of, I don't want to say an embarrassment, but it wasn't
it's not. It wasn't that bad. But like what I will say is it reminded me a lot of, and anybody that's listening to this that follows legend car racing or Bandoleros or has raced or in the Charlotte area and raced or been to the summer shootout, it reminded me like the summer shootout where you race like a couple green flag laps and then like everyone's just moving everybody out of the way. People are flying off of the track in the grass, like, and it's just like yellow after yellow after yellow after yellow. And then like towards the end of the race, I was just like, okay, guys. And then like Harvick wrecking the 38, I was like, just another yellow that's just like totally not necessary that we all now have to sit and wait again to get this all lined back up and go again. And I was just like, oh man, that little bit was starting to get annoying. I mean, and I think most fans would say that, right? Like you were just like, okay, I'm ready to see them race. Like just like one corner yellow, one corner yellow, one corner yellow, like 6 times in a row.
Exactly. So I guess my last question is, what does NASCAR do in Southern California for the next 2 years if they can't go to Auto Club and they can't do a points race there?
I don't know. I don't think they should touch Auto Club personally. I'm fine with it being rough and whatever. It's like one of the best 1.5 or 2 mile tracks that we go to. Like I love racing there. I just love it. I think most of the other drivers would be like, yes, we all love it. There's multiple lanes to choose from. You can kind of run on the bottom. It's worn out. It's tricky. It's tough. You slide up, you run the wall, big, long straightaways where momentum and runs come in. Like it's one of the best races. So to me, I personally don't think tearing it down and putting a short track there is a good idea. But what I will say, I think in this thinking process behind making this track is developing the land around the track and putting, shopping areas, good restaurants, other things to do in that area for the fans. Like that part of it, I'm really excited to see what they do with that because the track is huge. Yeah. So there's a lot of land there. I'm like, man, they could put in awesome hotels, all kinds of stuff for kids. different shopping stores, all kinds of stuff, sports bars, whatever, you name it, that are there. And when the race comes in, it's like a whole nother, it's like a big party area, right? Like I think that part of it excites me. And I think that there's a big opportunity to see how that looks and how that works. But the racetrack is just so awesome. So there's like part of me that's like sad because this track is so great and everyone loves racing there. It's in a beautiful area with the mountains in the back and everything. It's beautiful. And then, you hate to like lose this track, but maybe this is the start of something really new and great and exciting. That's way better for the fans. And everyone's like, oh my, and maybe this short track that comes out of it becomes an iconic short track for us in our sport in the future. I simply don't know that. I'm just saying the big track is fun. Yeah. It's already a great fun track.
What you have now is really good. And I agree. I think before last year's weekend at Auto Club, I think most people would have said, yeah, short track, this is a no brainer. And then you saw the Cup cars struggle on short tracks. You saw how great the race on the 2-mile track was last year. And I think everyone's now, pumping the brakes a little bit. But I'm confident that at some point NASCAR, at least in the Cup Series, will get a better short track package. We already know the Xfinity cars seem to race great no matter what type of track they're competing on. I like what you said, though. If they're going to turn it into a short track, use the excess, the leftover land to build something to bring people in, to build something like shopping centers, restaurants, entertainment venues, you name it. I think if they can really develop the land around the track, that would be great. Because if it just turns into more warehouses over there and then there's a short track, there's no point. At that point, like just renovate the grandstands you have now and keep it a 2-miler. It'll be more unique that way, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. And it would be cool if they could integrate like a way for the camping and stuff in California too, like around all this other stuff that would be fun to do with the restaurants and the shopping and whatever. Like if stuff for the kids. I mean, stuff to do at night. Throw a bowling alley in there. Throw something cool. Breweries around that. Like all that fun stuff. That would be. I think it would make it like a destination place to go.
That's the tough thing is it's in Southern California, but it's an hour outside of Los Angeles. So you're going to need something more than a racetrack to get people to come out there for it consistently and fill those grandstands. But it's not an easy solution. I think we both agree. The Clash at the Coliseum, fun exhibition, points race, not so much. Real quick, before we bring in Daniel Suárez, our extra special guest, I have one other topic I wanted to bring up. This offseason has been packed full of news, but perhaps one of the biggest stories, we alluded to it earlier when talking about Diecast. Kevin Harvick, the closer, is about to close out his historic NASCAR career, 60-time winner and counting. He's still got this year to go. He's won a championship, has a shot at a second one. He's been to 5 championship 4 appearances, which according to my stats ties him for the most all time since they've implemented this current version of the playoffs. He's already announced, it's now been confirmed that he will join the Fox TV booth after this year. But I guess, Brennan, I know you grew up more of a Jeff Gordon fan, but you've grown up in the Kevin Harvick era. You've had to race in the Kevin Harvick era, if you will. So how will you remember the closer now that his career sort of winds to a close?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great moments watching him as a kid, as I was trying to find my own way to NASCAR. So, I mean, that part of it is cool. And another California guy, I started racing in California, so I think that's cool. But, for the most part, I've had Kevin come up and try to give me advice, talk to me, help me about things. I've also had him come up and be really pissed at me, give me the finger a few times. But that's just racing. But I think some of the battles stuff that we had on track for me, I think I'll remember, we battled at Darlington. He got really mad at me because I literally sent him into turn 3 at Darlington. He was pissed. Which, I didn't mean to send him that hard, but also, I was still learning some things at that particular time. So just part of that, and I think Harvick's been great for the sport. I think he's helped the sport in a lot of different areas, and has definitely been someone in his later years of his career where he's stepped up and said a lot of stuff that's, I think, pushed the sport forward in a lot of areas. So I think he was great as far as those things go. And I've always felt like he's done a great job in the booth. He's always kind of done Xfinity races and truck races and done that stuff. So I'm excited to just hear his perspective. on Sundays, not being the driver on track, but being the driver in the booth, going over and breaking down the things that are happening on track. I think he's an incredibly smart race car driver. So just getting to hear those things and what he has to say, I think will be valuable to a lot of racers out there, but also give the fans a little bit better perspective. And I think he does a great job at that. So I'm excited to see him in the booth.
I think he'll be a great foil to Clint Boyer's personality. Like you got Mike Joy, great historian, and I don't know how many more years he's going to do that job. Maybe not much longer, but great historian of the sport. Boyer is in the moment more of a character. You'll have Kevin Harvick, the straight man, who's just dishing out great facts and information like you're talking about. So I do think Harvick will mesh with the Fox TV booth really, really well. I'm excited that deal's happening. The way I always remember Kevin Harvick, obviously a driver who entered the Cup Series under tumultuous circumstances, but I mean, made the most of his opportunity, and I think helped heal the sport in some ways by having early success that first year in 2001. He's hothead Harvick, happy Harvick, whatever you want to call him. He's had his ups and downs. I've not been a fan of him at times. I've been a fan of his at times. But what you said as well about him sort of becoming a leader in the industry now, I think becoming a voice, that is very true. And you look around, even though he won't be driving anymore, he still has his fingers, his hands, I think, in a lot of different areas. He's got his son, his kids are coming up through the racing ranks. He's got Kevin Harvick Incorporated, which represents several drivers and athletes. He and Dale Jr. and that whole group, and Just Mark, they just bought the Cars Tour late model series. And I'm probably forgetting something. Yeah, he'll be on TV. So Kevin Harvick's still going to be around, still going to be a voice of reason, I think, in many ways, and won't be afraid to share his opinion. We know that much. So,
his opinion will be made known regardless of where he is. So, and that's going to be cool. Maybe he has a different perspective from the booth. I don't know, but I'm excited to see his next chapter. Obviously, I think everyone will miss seeing some of the action that he brings to the track for sure, and maybe a few of the fights. But I think, what did he say before he left? That Richard Childress told him, if you're not winning the race, or if you're having a bad day, make sure you get on TV and cause some drama. So I don't remember what the exact quote was,
that sounds about right.
He certainly did that many times.
Yeah. So absolutely. It also leaves a big hole over at Stewart Haas Racing to fill. We don't have to get into that too much, but it's
hey, Tony Stewart, call me.
I like that. Yeah. Hey, honestly, shoot your shot. They got a couple openings there with Almirola.
I know
as well.
I'm available.
You got to schmooze the Smithfield. You got to find whoever he knows.
Flavor hails from there, dude. I got the bacon in my fridge right now.
I like it. Well, on that note, again, this is how we'll start most every episode. This is kind of the pilot in many ways. We're feeling it out, but we like to start by talking about the latest news and notes, and of course, this is on YouTube. This is on other platforms, so we always encourage you guys to comment and chime in down below. But now it's time for the mid-show break, if you will, where we bring in a special guest each episode. And our first guest, I am pleased to say, is none other than the one and only Daniel Suárez. So let's bring him in. And welcome to the show now, Daniel Suárez, our first ever guest in the history of the Out of the Groove Power Hour. And I'm counting, like, Brennan, you've got a few helmets behind you. I've got a cheap replica here. But Daniel, you're winning this battle running away. How's it going, man? Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Both of you guys, Eric, Brennan. And I have a few helmets. Believe it or not, all these helmets I have here in the back of me, I had them in boxes for a long time. And then Julia came to my life and she put all this stuff together, and then she made my office look way nicer. So it's pretty good.
Oh, it looks fantastic. How's your off season going? I know you've been really busy lately. New York City, and actually, speaking of Julia, I guess we should start there. Congratulations back in November. That's really exciting stuff. So it sounds like you've had a great off season, but now NASCAR is about to return. How's it been going?
Yeah, it's been great. With a lot of confidence, I tell you that it's been the best off season of my career. And honestly, it's not just because the engagement is for everything else, that happened around it. So much stuff going on, traveling, visiting family, just doing a lot of different things. And for the first time ever, I was able to really disconnect from racing for a few weeks. I never done that before in my life, because I always had to work with either sponsors, contracts, or extensions or stuff like that. So you have no idea the difference. It's very hard to explain, but it's way different. Like right now, I'm actually really, really fresh to get going again, and I have never felt like this before. I've never been in this position before, so it's quite nice, and definitely very, very excited to get going. I've been waiting for this moment already for a few weeks.
It's
Right.
certainly coming up quick. I know Eric and I were joking because we're getting to talk to you right before the Clash, and this episode is going to come out right after the Clash. And we were like, what if Daniel wins the Clash? And we've talked to him right before. Not only are we good luck, and you're going to be wanting to come on this show now, every week because you talked to us and then went and won the Clash right after. But also like we didn't get to talk about it, man. But one question I have is like you're going to LA, obviously such a fun place to go and race. Of course, we raced kind of near there in Fontana shortly after Daytona, the week after. But can you talk about like what is the feeling like as a driver, like getting to race, in that Coliseum, in that environment, all the entertainment around, like starting off our season in LA in the Coliseum, sort of, the feeling of getting to fire the season off there. Like, what is that like for you?
For me, is very special. Obviously, because the Coliseum is a very historic place. So much history has gone through there. Uh, that's one part of it. But the second part that for me is very important is that racing in LA or California or really anywhere in the West Coast for me is almost like racing at home, and it's just special. I remember like it was yesterday when I did the driver introduction in LA, and I did my introduction with a sombrero. I mean, like it was crazy. Like I can guarantee you, hands down, the most noise of any driver, just because I had the sombrero and there were so many Mexican flags on the grandstand. So that's quite special for me. I don't get to live that in many places. So to have that in LA, starting the season in a race where I know that a good percentage of the people there are Hispanic and they're going to support me is quite special.
Yeah, and this last season you got your first win in Northern California, but still California, like you said. And I mean, how special was that environment to win there of all places? Like, it looked fun. The whole team was celebrating, but take me back to that moment. Like, how great was it to win your first race on the West Coast of all places?
Yeah, it was very, very special I mean, just being, like I said, just being in the West Coast is extra special. And also I had actually my program, Daniel's Amigos. So I
Oh
had
yeah.
a few hundred of Mexicans, Latinos in there making a lot of noise. So it was just very special. And then actually the day after the race, the day after winning the race, I got to travel to Mexico for the off weekend. We had the off weekend right after. So it just couldn't work out better, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember from that race, what stands out the most to me was the Piñata celebration at the end. So I have to ask this. Um, Ross Chastain, I remember said in interviews way back when that he has like a watermelon on standby in case he wins. There's someone who's like on watermelon duty. So I got to ask you, do you have somebody on Piñata duty, and what does their role or job look like?
Yeah, so I want to tell you exactly how that happened. So for a while, people ask me, hey, how's going to be your celebration, when you win, because we know you're going to win. So I always say, man, I have no idea. I will figure it out as I go. And then my PR say to me, man, you should have a piñata. And I was like, man, that would be a very good idea. And actually, a few years before last year, a friend of mine in Mexico told me something about a piñata as well. And I thought, man, that would be a great idea, to break a piñata, that like that's a very, very Hispanic thing. And we're heading to Dover, to the Dover race. I have always raced very, very good in Dover, and I told my team, hey, um, you know, we're gonna win this race. And one of the guys in the '99 team, he went to buy a piñata. And then when he was in the store buying the piñata, he started sending me pictures, and he sent me this picture of a taco piñata, and I was like, man, that thing is perfect. Buy a couple of those. So he got a couple of those, and in Dover we ended up having some issues, so we didn't win there, but we already had a couple piñatas in the holder, and I told him, I said, we're gonna use this piñata this year, and so yeah, we already have somebody in charge of that.
I think you're going to go through a couple of those piñatas this year. I'm foreseeing it. And now we're going to have to find you a piñata specialist to make you taco piñatas, because I see you ripping through some of them this year. And those extra ones you have laid over are going to be gone here pretty quickly. I've got a feeling. I'm calling it.
The stock market of the taco piñatas is going to go up this year. Just remember that.
Oh, that's awesome. I agree. I totally agree. So, new year, new season. How do you feel where you guys are? I know last year, you guys, you obviously won your first race. You were very quick there. You were in position to win multiple other times throughout the year, making the playoffs. How do you feel this year, heading into this season where you're fixing to run in the Daytona 500 at the start of the year? I'm assuming that everyone's got to be fired up in your camp and your race team, Trackhouse, obviously having a great year. Do you guys, you feel pressure to continue on that success? Although I believe you guys will this year, but like, how are things feeling and gelling as you're getting ready to kick off this second season here?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think that 2022 was a good year, but there was a lot left in the table, man, and that's what is exciting for me and for my team. That is, and I mentioned actually this. I had lunch with my team today, and I told them, man, we still babies. Like in 2022, my entire team, I mean, 90% of my team was new. Pit crew, I mean, engineers, like pretty much almost everything. So this is going to be the first time that we only made a few adjustments in our team to make it a little bit better and stronger, without changing the entire team. So we're very excited for that. We think that definitely there is a huge opportunity there. And yeah, so I think that this year is gonna be excited for the opportunities that we can come, because like I said, last year we were happy, but we didn't finish satisfied. I mean, we felt that there were so many things that we could have done better, and that we have the potential for more. So it's exciting to have those kind of issues. But yeah, the expectations are high, and I think that this year we're gonna be able to be stronger and more consistent. I think that's the main thing. That last year we had spikes, a lot of spikes, and this year my goal is to have those spikes in more than the consistent basis.
Well, you mentioned that the team still is really young. I guess this is just the third year of Trackhouse's existence. But last year, I mean, you guys were more successful. Ross obviously won races. You won a race. Both made the playoffs. Like, so does the vibe change at all? I guess I don't know how best else to describe it, but like, is the mood at the shop different? Y'all are going into 2023 still hungry for more, but maybe a little extra pep in your step, knowing that, hey, we did some great things last year. Y'all ran with the big guns, and I don't think anyone expected you to.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man, is that this car really changed the game. And some people is accepting it, and some people is not. But the reality is that this car changed the game. If it wasn't for this car, Trackhouse, wouldn't be what Trackhouse is today. And I feel like it really gave a more fair shot to the new organizations. And I'm not saying new organization just coming in and just trying your best. No, Trackhouse is a very, very good built organization. We have a lot of support from good sponsors, Chevrolet, which is key, and we're one of the key partners of Chevrolet. So there is a lot of great things on the side of Trackhouse. We have a lot of new young blood, which is great. And the reality is that we just have the same tools than any other team that is up there. The only thing that we don't have uh, is the experience and the big name. But other than that, we have everything else. So why not? We're exactly the same, and that was kind of like the line that Trackhouse used a lot last year. Why not us? So it's great to be here with a team that is hungry, with a team that is young, and with a team that that in reality we are just getting started.
Yeah, I think the growth where you guys are and you really starting with the team from the very beginning. I mean, it's just amazing to see the growth and I've known you, Daniel, a really long time. I mean, since before I made any NASCAR starts, and we were teammates at Venturini back in 2014. 2014. I think you ran some in 2013. I don't remember then. I think I might have known you then, but and yeah, so we've known each other a long time, and I've certainly seen a lot of the the ups and the downs and all the emotions and the different things that happen throughout the sport. And you've been there for me through a lot of those different the ups and downs and things that I've experienced in the sport and in my career. And I appreciate that about you. So thank you, even though I think you already know that. I'm thankful for that. And I'm just so happy for you to see you overcome those things. And I think back to battling and like Eric asked me before we talked to you too, like, hey, have you and Daniel ever had any things where you've ran into each other, stuff on the track? And like, man, the one time in 2020 in a cup race, we were running around in the back at Darlington just riding, and I like totally just ran you over, like on total accident, and about wrecked both of us. And and I think we joke about it, obviously. I mean, in that split moment, I think both of us were like, oh crap, but
you were trying to wreck me for 29.
yeah, I know. Total accident, but still funny, and a good memory I have from that season, because we do have a good relationship. And so, oh my God, I'm just like, I can see it in my head now, it happening, and just being like, man, that was so ridiculous. And it was my fault completely. So whoops, that's all I can say about that one. But just to see, even from those moments and the tough 2020 and then going to Trackhouse, starting this new adventure, and you getting your first race, making the playoffs, all the stuff that's just right in front of you here, right? For you and Trackhouse, there's just I see just a bright future. And I'm sure you feel like you've found a little bit of a home here, with Justin Marks and this team. And are you seeing yourself being here a long time, seeing this journey out, being here for years to come, fighting, winning championships? Do you think this is probably where you're going to be for the rest of your career, or how do you look at those things?
Yeah, Brennan, it's been a long journey. I have learned that in the Cup Series is not enough to just be a good driver. It's not enough to to be talented to drive race cars, because you are talented to drive race cars. I'm talented to drive race cars. Like we know that. I believe that most of the guys in the Cup Series are talented, and I think that once you get to this level, and you really want to compete for wins and to win championships, being good is not enough. Like, you have to have way more than just that. You have to have an army behind you. Of people. Pit crew, organization, engineers, crew chief, like a lot of people, because there is so many things that you have to adjust to always move forward. And unfortunately, I was part of great teams in the past, and I learned a lot. But there was always something missing, and I feel like it got better as I started growing in the Cup Series and I started learning. The first 2 years were definitely extremely difficult, because people just didn't listen to me. I was asking for different things or looking for different things, and I felt like we were always underwater for some reason, and there was always a struggle. And once I went to Trackhouse, and and they put on the table all the plan and everything that they actually wanted to do with Trackhouse. Back at the end of 2020, when I announced I was going to go to Trackhouse, I said that this was going to be my biggest opportunity in the Cup Series. And a lot of people told me I was crazy. I already knew, what I was talking about. I already knew the plan that Justin and Ty Norris had, but nobody else did. And and a lot of people gave me a lot of crap because I said that, but I said, okay, just wait. And now they know what I saw back then. And I'm just very, very thankful that Justin and Ty, they picked me to start this project. And I was actually very, very thankful as well that I believe in them, because when they reached out to me, Trackhouse was only on a piece of paper. And all the people that I know around me that give me advice, they told me to do not believe on another new team, because in 2020, I believe on a brand new team, and they gave me all these promises and all these goals and all these things that they were going to do, and nothing happened. So it was very, very tough for me to put a lot of leap of faith again. But my gut feeling was telling me, man, Trackhouse is they're gonna do it right. They really want to do this right, and I just went with my gut feeling, and thanks God it worked out. but yeah, I mean, it just sometimes you just have to. It's everything about timing, and I don't feel like I had a good timing in the first 4 years of my career in the Cup Series. But right now, finally, I was able to found that group of people that wants to be successful on my car as much as I want to be successful.
I remember back in 2020 when you made those comments about best opportunity I've had, and yeah, there were a lot of naysayers, but I guess you're right. Made the playoffs, you've won a race, so I guess who got the last laugh in the end? But I think my last question, Brennan, I'll let you talk again after this, but your journey, Daniel, through NASCAR, I think has been remarkable. You've touched on it. You've been with big teams. You've been with small upstart teams that didn't work out. Now one that seems to be going pretty well. So I guess we're jumping all over the place, but if you go back and look at your entire racing career, what do you believe was your biggest break at this point?
So when I look to my career, in 3 segments. One segment was in Mexico, going through go-karts, making it into big cars, and then NASCAR Mexico, where my family had to do a ton of sacrifices for me to race. Like, my dad sold his business, they put a mortgage on my mom's house. Like, we were struggling big time for them to give me an opportunity. So that's kind of like the first, phase of my career. The second phase was moving to the United States, which it was very, very difficult as well. And well, let me go back. The first phase, I was able to make it to NASCAR. A big team gave me a contract, and I started winning. So I finished that phase, and then I started the second phase. I moved to the US, and then I started again from zero. I didn't speak English. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have anything. So that was kind of like the second phase. And it took me a while to be able to learn the language and to be able to understand. And I got to win races. And I was successful there. And then I went to, the Xfinity Series. I raced with Brennan there for a couple of years, and I was able to win the championship, and that was amazing. So that was the second phase. The third phase of my career was the Cup Series. And I will say that that phase was quite different because just like I said just a minute ago, the whole timing of things, I was already part of big organizations like Gibbs and Stuart House right after that, and I learned a lot. With that being said, there were a lot of things that were happening that they were not the best for me, and at the end of the day, as an organization, you have 4 cars. You have to. I mean, at least this team, they had 4 cars that they had to take care of, and I wasn't one of the priorities in those cars. So it was very, very difficult for me as a new guy coming up to learn and to move forward when I was not getting what I needed at that time. So I struggled a lot. The first 2 years, in Gibbs were probably the most difficult ones. I went to Storehouse and things started to look better. We missed the playoffs actually only by 1 point, and we got a pole position. We led laps. We couldn't win races that year, and but I feel like we're moving in the right direction. I feel like with some adjustments, we're going to be better the following year, and things were actually looking very good for the following year. But just the timing of things just didn't work out, and I had to leave. And it was so late in the season that I didn't have options because, pretty much 90% of the people in the team they wanted me to stay, and it just didn't work out. And then I ended up going to Toyota in 2020, and that was when I hit bottom. I thought that, that was in my mind that it couldn't get lower than that. Like if that was gonna be my racing career, I was gonna stop because I didn't want that for me. So I hit bottom, and that 2020 season, that was probably the season that I actually learned and grew the most as a person, not as a race car driver. As a race car driver, honestly, I didn't learn anything. Racing 30th, 28th, and Brennan knows this. You don't learn anything because doesn't matter how hard or how work and how fast you drive, the car is gonna be 28 or 29. Mm-hmm. So I was able to work a lot on myself to be better and to be stronger mentally and physically, and that's that was when Trackhouse, show up in my life as an opportunity, and there I went.
Yeah, I mean, your story is awesome, right? And as another race car driver myself, I really understand where you're coming from and the things that you're saying, because I've been on the inside. So I know what it's like to not be the priority guy. I've had teammates where, it was very obvious I was not the guy. There's no way I can overcome, in the beginning portion of my career when I first started racing Xfinity where I was at, I just wasn't the guy there. And that's fine. I just couldn't. That timing is everything. And at that moment in time, I just wasn't. I did not have those people around me. So, and it's very hard to overcome that. But talking about your break, I mean, obviously now at Trackhouse and having these guys around you that believe in you, that listen to you, that are letting you sort of steer the ship, if you will, guide them. You can see the results, and it's amazing to see what you've accomplished since being a part of that team. And I'm so excited to see, what you do this year. And also as my buddy, just to because I want you to do well. Right. And, maybe I'll bring over a small taco and we can smash it up in your front yard when you win the next one, and have some fun and eat some tres leches and have a good time. But we're gonna make Lindsay, my girlfriend, makes really good tres leches for those listening, and we made a bunch for Daniel's engagement party, and we had leftovers, and so much so that some of the friends were fighting over them and trying to steal them. But Daniel, you locked it down and held on to the extra tres leches, so we will make some more of those this year for sure at some point. But hopefully, listen, we're going to have a massive party because I'm racing Daytona in the Xfinity series. I've got a shot to win on Saturday before you, and then you just win the 500. And you know how much tres leches and how much food we're going to have? It's going to be, we have to do it. It would be like the greatest party of all time. So I'm putting the pressure on you. You put the pressure on me, and let's just take over speed weeks and win Saturday and Sunday, both of us.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I mean, that will be very, very exciting. I have very, very good expectations and very good energy and very good, just environment in my team. It's very, very important to have a good environment in your team when you are going to work your butt off every single week and weekend from February to November. So I have an amazing team, great people, and I think that we're gonna do some great things, man. And I know you're gonna work very, very hard, and I know your break is coming as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Daniel, and I appreciate you coming on and talking to us a little bit and about this season and where you're at and what you've done and telling us a little bit about your journey. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, I know your story and I've spent a lot of nights with you and eaten a lot of steaks and meat at Chima. And but I still appreciate you coming on and sharing the story and chatting with Eric and I and being our first guest on our new show, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you.
A huge and tremendous thank you to Daniel Suárez for taking some time out of his schedule to come on the show and be the first guest in Out of the Groove Power Hour presented by Circle B Diecast history. That's a mouthful. I'll have to get used to that. This final segment of the show, typically, we would reserve for fan questions. So that's, I guess, my lighthearted suggestion to all of you watching or listening at home to leave a comment, either tweet at us or leave a comment underneath the YouTube video if you're watching us right now. If you want to know something about Brennan, if you for some reason want to know something about me, leave a comment down below, because each episode of this show, we're typically going to close out by answering some of those fan questions. I like the idea, Brennan, that like, I pick some questions to ask you and you pick some questions for me. Feels like we might end up with some really awkward ones. But
we might. We might.
Absolutely. So, because this is our first episode, our inaugural episode, we're still figuring everything out. And it is also the first episode after a long and crazy off season. I figured we should begin this series by talking about Daytona, previewing the Daytona 500 and also what you've got going on, Brennan, because you're racing at Daytona here in just a few short days. How excited are you? How pumped are you?
I'm pretty excited. I just packed my bag for the first time for the year. So I have my suit, the new I don't know if you guys know, but there's like a new rule where we all have to wear head to toe underwear. So I have like the new socks, the new pants.
Were you going commando before that? Were you one of the drivers that forced them to put
commando? I don't know if I'm gonna say commando, but I just wore normal boxers. Like I'm a normal boxer guy. Like I don't like it when stuff's tight around my thighs. I think the problem is from all the cycling and running and stuff, like my thighs are bigger than my waist. So like it never works out right. So like I either feel like my thighs are getting have the grip of death on them and my waist fits right, or my waist doesn't fit right at all. And then the lower part of my thigh is comfortable. So I don't like wearing the underwear. I just don't. But it's mandatory now. So I have the socks, which I don't mind wearing the socks. They're like a little thin, the fireproof one. So it feels a little funky at first when you're not used to it. And of course, when you're racing, you don't notice it at all, but walking around, you notice it. It feels a little goofy, but yeah. So I have all the new stuff, all the new rules in my bag. I've got my new helmet, all my stuff ready to rip. So I'm pretty excited about it. And speaking of my new helmet, so it's a throwback to that one right there, that one there. Yeah. And I'm gonna do like a little video on what it means and all that stuff and the history, and post like videos of me when I'm 5-year-old Brennan and whatnot on my Patreon that I just started. Ooh. So I'm doing a little like behind the scenes stuff, and I'm going to answer questions and stuff over there after races. I'm going to like give away gloves and shoes personalized to fans if you're a part of it. And we might do some other cool special giveaways and t-shirts and all kinds of fun stuff. So find me on Patreon, check it out. If you want to be a part of the bullpen, that's what we're calling it. Eric said it was a good idea, so we're rolling with it. So that's what we're doing. But yeah, so I'm really excited. Daytona is one of my favorite places to go, and to start the year out there, you can't get any better than that. So I'm excited. We're gonna have a fast race car. I really think I might be doing some woos at the end of the day, but I don't. You gotta have a lot of things go right at Daytona to end up there and miss a lot of the crashes. So we'll see. But I think we're gonna have a really fast car.
And on that note, I wanted to ask you, since you're a driver who's raced at Daytona in a variety of vehicles, I need to find the tweet. If I can find it, I'll put it up on the YouTube version of this show right here. But I saw a tweet that kind of reminded me that Denny Hamlin, he's won 3 Daytona 500s in the last like 6-7 years, but he's also been really close to winning like 3 or 4 more. And everyone looks at super speedway racing as being kind of fluky. There's a big wreck that can easily take out all the best cars. That's not even a single driver's fault. And so I think a lot of people believe plate racing, if you will, is completely random. But I think the great super speedway racers seem to overcome that randomness and still find themselves near the front. Like you mentioned to me a moment ago while we were listening to the Suárez interview, that McDowell always seems to be there at the end of these super speedway races. And obviously he won a Daytona 500 2 years. Yeah, 2 years ago now. So as a driver, when people say, "Oh, plate racing's just random," like it doesn't really take any traditional skill, like what? I'm not trying to like light a fire inside you here, but like, what do you say to that? What is your response?
I think any driver that says that, they just don't get how to race plate races. They just don't get it.
Do you think it's like just don't buy into it? Because I've heard, like, not to throw him under the bus, I heard Christopher Bell in a different podcast recently say that he hates super speedway racing, just despises it. And I get it. Like, he's a dirt guy, completely goes against what he's learned how to do his whole life, probably. But like, do you think he's just not buying in? He's just not accepting it, or is it?
I guess. I mean, Christopher Bell, don't be mad at me for saying this, but like, I just think that's dumb. It's not. Yeah, it's not the same type style of racing where we're at a short track or we're at a mile and a half and you're braking and you're having to move around the track and you're literally like physically driving the car to create the speed. You're not doing that. Like at Daytona, you're wide open, but there's a lot of decisions being made. There's a lot of anticipating that's being made. And that in itself is a skill, to be able to see things happen before they happen and understand where to position yourself in order to get the finish or win the race. Like that is a skill. And I think there are a lot of guys that have it, and maybe the ones that aren't buying in just struggle with that at this point in their career, and maybe they'll find it, right? Like, I mean, Dale Jr., good example. Dale Sr., good example. Like so many good guys. Denny Hamlin is, I mean, just listen to Denny when he calls some of the Xfinity races and things he's saying and talking about the side drafting and decisions and where to move. Like that's all skill that you have learned through time and experience and studying film, which to me is, I mean, that's a learned, earned skill. So I think there's many drivers that are good, that are really good at it. I mean, I think Christopher Buescher for a long time was always somehow he's always at the front at the end of these races, even when he ran Xfinity full time.
Won a dual race last year.
Yeah, won a dual race. That is it's these races are not easy to win. That's why when you see someone repetitively win them, that something's up. Justin Haley in the colleague cars. I mean, something's up. You can't. He's
got like 4 of these trophies, something like
that.
Yeah,
he's very good at anticipating what is going to happen and then position himself. And there's one of the last ones he won at Daytona, I think you can literally watch him make the decision to go where he goes. Like he sits, makes a decision, and that was the right decision, won the race. It's like, wow. Cause he could have made a couple of different choices, and the decision he did make ultimately is what made him win the race. So those, it's just about anticipating, and that is a skill in learning how things happen over time and what certain drivers will do, things like that. You definitely have to have some things go your way. You need help from other individuals, but there's a skill in forcing other people to help you too at the plate tracks. And, and that doesn't get talked about that much either, but it's just that type of style of racing. It's very mental. It's very mentally exhausting, but it's a mental race, and you have to miss wrecks. There's a lot of things that come into luck, McDowell winning the 500, yes, they wrecked in front of him and he went through the wreck and won the race, but he was still in third in the last lap of the Daytona 500. He was in position to have a shot at winning anyways.
He was pushing Brad, I think, to the potential win. Like he was there.
Correct. So no matter what, you have to put yourself in a position to win those races, and that's a skill. Granted, you still need some luck to win them because you could get taken out.
You need luck to win any race.
Race.
Arguably a little more at super speedways, but yeah,
correct.
Well, that's interesting to hear a driver's perspective on that note. But we're looking forward to watching you out in the Xfinity race Saturday, Brennan. I want to talk a little bit about the Daytona 500 though, real quick while we have just a couple more minutes. Again, power hour. Really trying to stick to the hour-long timeline. I don't know. We might have
power hour and 2 minutes.
See, that doesn't ring. That doesn't have as good a ring to it.
No, it doesn't.
Well, the Daytona 500, we don't have to give like our picks, but I think the list of drivers who are attempting to qualify for the Daytona 500, super interesting. So by the time everyone's listening to this, tomorrow night is single car qualifying, and then in 2 nights are the duels. And I mean, you got legends like Jimmy Johnson and Travis Pastrana trying to make the race. Pastrana's not really a NASCAR legend, but he, a racing legend.
Yeah, he's a legend though.
Yeah. Austin Hill, Zane Smith, Chandler Smith, some young guns trying to kind of make their way in. And I'll throw Connor Daly into the mix, who was announced or last week, I believe, that he's going to attempt the race as well. So I don't. There's a lot to watch out for.
There's going to be some hurt feelings after the duels. Yeah, I mean, there are going to be like 4 really good cars go home that are spinning top dollar. I mean, the Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, Jimmy Johnson, like you said, Travis Pastrana, those cars, like those are really good cars, and those teams are spending a lot of money to make those cars perform at like top level. Like those cars are going to qualify a lot better than a lot of other cars that have charters. And some of those cars will not make the race, which is crazy. Like, it's probably going to be one of the most exciting dual races to watch that there have been in an incredibly long time, because I mean, Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, those guys could miss the race, and you could have a Connor Daly or somebody get in. What if someone wrecks? You don't know. It's going to be very, very intense.
It's nice that there's more than 40 cars. You know, there's going to be some eliminations. I think like watching the Indianapolis 500 every year is more of a casual IndyCar fan. Like bump day, knowing that nobody is locked in, is so exciting. That really adds to the intensity and the drama. Daytona 500, not quite the same thing, because you do know 36 drivers are locked in for sure. I mean, who was it? Rick Ware they added Riley Herbst to their lineup, and no disrespect to Riley Herbst, but it just sounds kind of goofy knowing that he's locked in and Jimmy Johnson's not. It's a little wacky, but still, the fact that there's going to be a couple drivers going home, it gives you a reason to watch.
It's intense. Like what happens if someone hits Jimmy on accident and around he goes head on to the fence, and then that's great. He's not going to be in the race, right? And that could happen to any of them. And that it's going to be intense to watch. You better believe I'm going to be watching it. I'll be there by then. I will be probably getting in. I'm driving there Thursday morning, so I'll probably be there somewhere to watch it on TV. But
the Wednesday night qualifying will be interesting too, because there is a way to qualify in on time, and I could see Jimmy Johnson. I could see Jimmy Johnson winning the pole in that car. I don't know. Chevys always seem to be fast.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Is it going to be Hendrick front row, or I don't know? Maybe Jimmy Johnson does sit on the pole. Who knows?
I know he's not a Hendrick car. He's a Hendrick driver, though. We'll see. I don't know. I'm banking on Chevy. I'm not just because you're sitting here and I know you drive a Chevy, Brennan, but I feel like Chevy's on that Wednesday, or now it's a Wednesday. It used to be like the week before or whatever. Always seem to be fast on qualifying day. So.
Oh yeah, will Bowman be on the pole for the
50th
time in a row?
Yeah,
5 weeks, 5 Daytona 500s are outside. He's been on the front row.
Yeah, he's been on the front row like every year of his Hendrick career, I think. Imagine,
which is crazy.
He's got a new crew chief though. Stat. He's got a new crew chief.
That's true too. Maybe, I don't know. It depends on what his crew chief's going for. I mean, I feel like Hendrick, they try to go down there and sit on the pole, which is a good thing to do. But there are teams, that focus more on handling as well throughout the race, and so there's like different different ways of looking at it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, we're both going to be there. You are going to be working as a driver. I will be working as someone who tries to talk to the drivers.
Well, you always know you come find me. I'll talk to you.
Absolutely. Both sides of the coin, both sides of the same coin, I should say. But that's going to do it, I believe, for our first ever episode of Out of the Groove Power Hour, presented by Circle B Diecast. Again, I'll remind everyone you can use code OOTG for free shipping on orders over $30. So head to Circle B. Try to find your favorite driver's latest diecast, maybe pre-order their upcoming 2023 scheme, and use that code for a special deal. Thank you so much to Circle B for sponsoring the show. And Brennan, thank you for being here for episode 1. You'll be here for every episode. I guess I don't need to specifically thank you. I put out a teaser like, hey, who do you think our first guest is going to be? And like half the comments were, oh, Brennan Poole, you already announced this. I'm like, he's not a guest.
No,
he's the host.
It's our show. Gosh, guys.
I think they've got it figured out by now.
Groovy Gang. Come on. Or some of you be part of the bullpen. Same team. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but thank you everyone for listening and or watching. Again, this show is available not only on YouTube at youtube.com/Eric Estepp, but it's also available on all major podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I think iHeartRadio even. I think they do podcasts.
Doesn't that make you feel official?
It really does. Official. I've never actually like rattled them all off like this. This is the first time I'm doing it. I think it's coming out pretty good. But thank you everyone for listening. Brennan, thanks for being here. We'll see you all down at Daytona, and then we'll definitely see you again for the next episode of Power Hour.